Welcome to the 12th episode of Shot Nostalgia, where we continue our drive back into the history of wrestling and fully immerse ourselves in a timeline. We are continuing our journey through 1996 WCW to relive one of the most memorable times to be a wrestling fan. As always, I'm Stephen ACEFIELD, the ace of the Turnbuckle Tavern, joined by my time-traveling friend, Mike freaking Belcaster. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? Happy to be back steadily in Chicago.
Dude, for real, you've been back a full week of Turnbuckle Tavern duties under your belt right now. Like, how you feeling back that you're getting to full time here on the tavern?
I missed it, man. I'm happy to be back, man.
Hell yeah, dude. And we have quite the episode to talk about here. Well, 2 episodes of Nitro. We've been truly waiting for this moment. This is why we chose 1996. And man, I can't wait to break it down. But first impressions for you watching the product from where we started in January until now. Give me your excitement level on 1 to 10 for what's remaining throughout this summer.
High 10. I mean, we've seen some transitions night and day from when we first started this to now. I mean, we're still seeing some goofy shit like Max and and Shark.
And the Shark baby.
Yeah, the Shark bait, man. But no, I'm super pumped. These were 2 absolutely solid episodes of Nitro. We officially hit that 2-hour format, which I'm actually digging more than the hour format. It seems like the match has got a little bit more time, a little bit more storytelling happening, a little bit of breathing, not so much rushing through shit. So I'm excited, man. This was fun.
All right, so let's get right into it. And as you guys know, we will be reviewing WCW Monday Nitro from May 27th, followed by the June 3rd episode of Nitro. As Mike Belcaster so appropriately mentioned, we are at 2-hour mark. So I think if you're watching this on Peacock, it's about 1 hour and 37 minutes. So if you're watching this, it seems like a little bit longer, but as he was saying, there is some dragging moments throughout Nitro, but the good stuff gets the time it deserves. And we're going to be moving through that stuff. And I think there's going to be a lot to unpack as far as conversation goes, but some of these matches really lived up to a hype where we were talking about 3 to 4 minute matches. We got more than that in these next 2 Nitros.
100%. We got double that at least. I don't think we had a match go under 5 minutes here. Maybe a few, but it was awesome, man. So pumped to have it going on. Good shit.
All right, so we're gonna just hop right into the happy hour. Let's wet our whistles a little bit. We're gonna talk about the newsletter, everything going on May 27th and June 3rd in Dave Meltzer's newsletter. All right, we'll let Dave Meltzer be our guide once again through the timelines of history. He's our scholar. He's our person that was there living in the moment, documenting. And I know that some of the dirt sheets get a little heat, especially Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful. But Dave Meltzer's weathered a lot of storms, and a lot of what he's saying here, he has, as we were unpacking, we admittedly say he does get some things wrong, but when he's on, man, he's really on.
Yeah. No, he listen, is in this time frame, he's so on the money with everything. I mean, there's a few misses here and there, just like there are everyday things, but he's got his shit together, man.
Oh, yeah. And this was the source. Back in 1996, you were either paying whatever it is, $14 for the hotline, which was a lot of money back then for your phone bill, or you were subscribing, getting this physical newsletter in the mail, or you were just living in the moment like we were as kids. But if you wanted in-depth analysis of wrestling, you couldn't just tap into your phone. So people take that for granted that you have us, you have Twitter, and you have to sift through the garbage. Right now, Meltzer is really the only one supplying this information. And if we didn't have this, we really wouldn't know, except having shoot interviews from the talent's perspective, having Eric Bischoff's perspective, having guys on WWF side's perspective. But the fact that we have an impartial party that's breaking down the happenings on both sides, it's very, very helpful as we're watching these Nitros.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a joy every show to get down in the nitty gritty with Meltzer team.
All right, so nitty gritty we will get into, and let's start with the biggest story that happened this week. So both Diesel and Razor Ramon in their final appearances before starting with WCW in mid-June were the recipients of chants of "You sold out" and "Please don't go" by a decent percentage of the crowd that seemed to know it was their final show. Razor was booed in this match with Triple H, who replaced Goldust, who missed another weekend because his knee hasn't recovered well enough for him to work, and heavily booed with a loud "You sold out" chant and did the job. After the match, he grabbed the house mic, and before he can get more than a few words out, panicked WWF officials, since this wasn't part of the show, cut off the power. As it was, all Razor ended up saying was something to the effect of telling people to say goodbye to the bad guy. So this is the only mention we have of the curtain call, the MSG incident, a really big deal when you unpack it. People say it's the day kayfabe died in wrestling history, but he just mentions it is the departure of Razor and Diesel. Tell me your feelings on this and how you feel this affected the history of wrestling and where we stand today.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I think it was just seen as a complete, mishappening in the ring. I mean, even here, Meltzer's not bringing it up as the curtain call. It's not being, reflected as so. It was just a small, Razor said goodbye, but they completely leave out, Hunter, Sean, Diesel, all in the ring, hugging it out. I think it definitely changed the viewpoint of everybody as fans who were in that arena, because I mean everybody was, you had bad guys, good guys all out there at the same time hugging it out, bowing, saying their goodbyes. And I don't think that's ever happened in wrestling, until then. I don't think people were granted their flowers on releases. It's still something that we don't see too often. So very interesting. I'm surprised it wasn't brought up more so as a big deal here. So it's interesting to see how Meltzer reported it.
There are still people that die on their swords and saying this was blasphemous, that it should not have happened. But the thing that caught me here in the newsletter was the fact that Triple H wasn't originally even supposed to be in this match. And the fact that he was created that moment for these Click members. And I know that people that were not involved in the match, 1-2-3 Kid being one of them, came out to the ring to join them.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine Triple H would have eventually gotten into the ring and been a part of what was going on. But to me, this becomes a much bigger deal later on. This happened on May 19th, 1996. The newsletter was published on May 27th. So Meltzer really has no clue about what this will do to the wrestling business. And it has a huge effect because it lifted the veil of secrecy that everyone was kind of tiptoeing around. Everyone knew this was predetermined, or however you want to look at it. This is the first time. Because keep in mind, in this era, there were still guys in the business that felt if you were a bad guy or a good guy, heel, face, however you want to put it, you shouldn't be riding with those guys. You should keep up the appearance that you are still following storyline out of the ring.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it also led to Hunter getting pulled from the King of the Ring tournament. You have history being made with Stone Cold that
Getting
show.
Squashed by Warrior at WrestleMania 12 as well.
That true. Yeah. So there's so much to unpack from it here. And it's crazy that it's just like this little mention here, this little blurb, like, oh yeah, Scott Hall just came out and said goodnight. Say goodbye to the bad guy. It's crazy.
It's possible though that he doesn't have the full report yet, because people forget this is a Madison Square Garden house show. So
yeah,
it's not being delivered via Pony Express, but it might as well be, very delayed. So if he's probably going to get more information. I'm curious throughout the next couple of weeks when we look at the newsletters to see, oh, wow, this has become a big deal. Triple H is clearly going to get punished for it. He's the only one left.
Yeah.
So we're going to see exactly where it goes and what's Meltzer's opinion on it. We know guys like Jim Cornette, old school wrestling minds, hate this. But in my opinion, this is what wrestling became. It became like everyone wants to be in on the show, and we can all pretend, we can all enjoy what's going on in the ring. But the more interest for the diehard fans, similar to us, we like to know what's going on. We like to believe we can have an understanding, even if we don't. That's become more of the intrigue than actually what's going on in the true storylines.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the people subscribing to the Meltzer, dirt sheets, those are the guys that are the ones that want to be in on it the most. So it's interesting to see. Just I'm excited to see how it unfolds. Maybe next week we're gonna get like Vince was pissed.
Yeah.
Everybody was so pissed, and like we'll work into it. I'm excited for it, man. It's crazy.
And it's funny, they do moments like this all the time later on in the history of wrestling. I mean, you could think back on when the cameras go off air. You have Vince McMahon doing the spinneroonie. You had Undertaker, them trying to get Undertaker to do the spinneroonie. things that they're doing just for the hometown crowd. Think about like John Cena coming out and just talking about whatever he is when the cameras go off air.
Yeah.
But dropping storylines to appreciate the history of these guys and what they contributed to the business, and having their friendships cemented through their battles across all these different arenas. And it was a huge moment. And I think it's looked upon fondly and these guys made a decision. They probably didn't realize the big thing that was going on in the ring at the moment. They were just following their impulses and wanted to say goodbye to their friends.
Yeah.
But man, they got a lot of heat for this.
Yeah. We'll see where it plays out.
All right. We will certainly mention it some more. And I think, throughout the history of wrestling, this definitely plays out, and it's weaved through a lot of the history of both Diesel and Razor, Triple H, and 1-2-3 Kid with the Click, and Shawn Michaels, of course, as well. But moving on, another WCW filled with negative feedback took place on May 19th at the Baton Rouge, Louisiana Riverside Centralplex before 7,791 fans. It was announced several times on both the pay-per-view show and on Nitro the following evening as a sellout. It was nearly full, but a sellout it wasn't, nor a good show. So Meltzer says, I'm apparently becoming too charitable as I gave it a slight thumbs down because I enjoyed Flair's performance in both the US and WCW title matches. And in other spots, the work rate was better than expected. Overall, the lottery was a dud. He goes on to talk about how the Battle Royal was a clusterfuck. It was just absolutely messy. Looking back on Slamboree and all the concepts that we've seen, would you like to see them do something at the Lethal Lottery in AEW? We know Tony Khan leans on WCW heritage. Would you like to see something like this done with the tag teams in AEW?
No. Short answer. Long answer. I would be cool to see them utilize the concept for like a singles thing, and not so much mashing up tag teams, but making a lottery system program. I think that's interesting. I just don't see it becoming a big deal with tag teams. It was weird. There's not many tag teams in AEW. I don't want to see the Bucks fight each other, teaming with the Hardys or something like it. It would just be weird and out of place. And I think time has told that this conception of it kind of shit the bed. So why bring it back in the same form? If anything, try to make it a little different or something.
Yeah, it was good in theory, I think, and we discussed it at length, so I'm not going to go too far into it. It was good in theory, and the idea was, I guess, done in good faith. Like, it could be interesting, but with 16 matches, it just became, a matter of fatigue watching that level of stuff that didn't really have any meaning. So, it took away from the other things going on the card.
Yeah.
But moving on to something that happened on these Nitros, and of course, we'll talk about as we break it down. We had Scott Hall coming out first, dressed in blue jeans, but everything else similar to his old Razor Ramon character in the middle of a dead match between Steve Dahl and the Mauler. The match basically ended with no finish, and Hall came into the ring doing his Latino accent and acted as if he was a WWF wrestler who came out to avenge his company, knocking WCW as if it was a hillbilly promotion, and talking about Billionaire Ted, Scheme Gene, Nacho Man, the characters from Vince McMahon's parodies. The crowd was somewhat stunned by all this, with some cheering, but most really reacting out of shock. So now we'll talk about it more as we get to it in the Nitro episode. He mentions that he has a lot of the Razor characteristics. Do you think the fact that he came out with the Razor persona with a little bit of a different edge to it, do you think that added to the drama of what was happening there? Do you think it created the aesthetic that the WWF Invasion thing felt real for the fans in the building?
When I was watching it as a kid, I full blood into it. I thought it was the most craziest shit in the world, and I don't think even watching it back, I don't think he was necessarily stealing the Razor character and bringing it to WCW. He changed up enough. He didn't come out with the vest, or he wasn't doing the full blown "Hey, what's up, Chico?" It wasn't as heavy as an accent. I think it was just him portraying what he knew already. Obviously, his character grew from time since this happens, but yeah, man, I didn't necessarily look at it and be like, man, this is a ripoff. It was more so like, oh, they can't name him. Bischoff says it a million times. Oh, I'm not going to go ahead and name this character. You guys know who he is. Like it's
brilliant.
So you can't. Yeah, I think they handled it as appropriate as possible without getting in soup trouble. And it just goes to show that Scott Hall could work anywhere.
Absolutely. And the thing is, where does the character Razor begin and where does Scott Hall end and where's the line blurred? And I think he found that perfect mark. Same thing with Kevin Nash when he came in. They were so authentic as characters that you didn't even need to say their name. And that's where WWF really fell short of, like, we're going to sue you guys. There's some liability here that you guys are ripping off our copyrighted material, because you weren't.
Yeah. Like, you can
you're
tell
not.
Scott Hall to not put fucking gel in his hair and come out with a toothpick. Like, what do you mean? That's his shit. It doesn't matter if it's Razor, but that would be like, in this day and age, like, they can't say, "Oh, you're the Hardy Boys" on AEW television. Like, but that's who they are. That's their gimmick. You know, of course you could try your hardest to block it, but it's not going to be something it's not worth chasing. I think the character is the character. It's the person. As long as he doesn't have the same monocle like Razor Ramon. If he came out and was like, "Hey, yo, I'm Razor Ramon, daddy," you know, like, it would have been different. Right. But he just came out, played it so nonchalant that it worked. And I think that's as best they could have done with it. I mean, history tells you it fucking killed. So I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, with WWF at the time and WWE now, they have an obsession with copywriting their characters, and rightfully so. They want to own the IP or the intellectual property of every single character that's on their product. Think back to them changing the names of everyone in NXT that got called up recently. You got LA Knight, who's now Max Dupree, or wherever you want to draw the line. But at the end of the day, look at a guy like Bryan Danielson. It's his face. It's who he is. Like, you can't change exactly who the person is. And people recognize whether his name is going by Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. No matter how you want to spin it, the guy authentically is the one the fans want to get behind. They're not getting behind the WWE machine as much as they want to believe that they create these guys. A guy like Razor Ramon was bigger than the promotion. He became bigger. It didn't matter what he was calling himself. The fact he called himself by his real name added to the authenticity of they're coming in and they're trying to take over.
No, 100%. And it's like, going back to it, like, what are they going to make Bryan Danielson shave his beard off because he got over with the beard? You know, you can only take away so much from somebody without it being them. You know, it's the same thing with Scott Hall.
All right. So from a one-upmanship category, it was the biggest strike Bischoff has pulled off, including the Lex Luger debut, and that is using McMahon's own storyline parody angles that were supposed to be used against WCW end up being used in WCW's biggest angle against WWF as a way to draw money, doing a Japanese-style fake shoot angle built around a promotional war. So people talk about NWO changing the game. This has been done cross-promotional in Japan in the past. There's been a lot that's been said about them. NWO took it to the next level. But it's funny that after all this, we talked about the pettiness of all these skits and the vignettes with the billionaire Ted. It's really come back to bite Vince, because it's like, for the casual fan that's not reading the newsletter, that doesn't have the information from the hotline, they believe truly that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, Diesel and Razor Ramon, are coming for retribution to get revenge on WCW for what they've been saying about WWF. It's a brilliant marketing strategy, whether it was intentional or not. It worked out perfectly for Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I loved, especially rewatching it this week. It was so awesome to hear those references. Yo, where's billionaire Ted? Where's the Nacho Man? Yeah. You know, it added so much depth to what's going on, and it just confused the shit out of us at the time.
So they did mention that no name was ever given to Hall other than Bischoff's frequent references to him saying he wouldn't mention a name because he doesn't want any more legal letters, but you all know who he is. That's when you know you're a goddamn badass, when you don't even have to say your name. You just say, everyone knows who I am. Like, can you imagine having that stroke? I can't think of a lot of characters today that would resonate the same way that Scott Hall. It's right place, right time. He was the right guy for this. And I don't know if it works with anybody else to be the initial character that's debuted for the NWO to get started.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
All right, so Meltzer continues. How WWF will react to this is anyone's guess. WWF officials had talked at length about how they would enforce the company's trademark on the Razor Ramon character, which, in using the accent, WCW has already violated what they claimed they owned intellectual rights to. Hall believed that since he used the slicked back hair, the same finishing maneuver called the Diamond Death Drop at the time, the toothpick, and called himself the bad guy while wrestling as Diamond Stud in WCW before ever adopting the Ramon character, that he can go into WCW with basically the same character and call himself the bad guy. And many are questioning how not allowing someone to talk with an accent could be enforced in court. So similar to what you mentioned before, the line is super blurry. Scott Hall teetered on it. I think WWF was like, fuck, man, we don't have a case against copyright infringement. We don't have it.
Yeah. No,
Crazy,
I mean, and this brings up a huge point. He was using it when he was Diamond Stud. So, like, you're talking years before he was Ray's Ramon. He was doing the same shtick, so you can't attack that. That's already a pre-existing gimmick, you know. So technically, WWF at the time was stealing it from WCW, in hindsight. So they better just to shut the fuck up than go against it, you know.
And I think that's essentially what happened. So Meltzer continues, and he's predicting what would happen. He's talking about a WWF threesome facing off against Sting and Randy Savage and a third partner, either the Giant or Ric Flair. Then he says this will likely build towards Scott Hall versus Hulk Hogan when Hogan returns in August. Then at least was the plan, but in typical WCW fashion or lack of communication, that entire storyline was already released on its own 900 number, playing off promotion versus promotion, particularly at a time when feelings of the fans regarding each promotion get so heated. It's the best way to at least initially make money off these newcomers, and the longer they can keep the illusion they aren't part of WCW, the more money they'll make from the angle. It's similar to how New Japan drew the three biggest houses in history of wrestling, doing a similar angle using the UWFI as a competing promotion and its top star, Takada, facing and eventually winning the world title from New Japan organization, and Keiji Muto before Hashimoto avenged the loss. So, like I said, this has been done in Japan before, and like we talk about all the time, just because storylines have been done doesn't mean you can't reuse them and recycle them. That's why with WWF, it's frustrating. They own so much of the library of these tapes. You can go back and watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling, go back and tap into these storylines. Fans that are watching now aren't familiar with them. You can rehash them, you can recycle them. And this is a perfect example of something working to an even enormous level. There's no way Bischoff could have predicted that this would be as big of a deal as it became.
Yeah.
So this was a built-in angle that WWF could have done first and best in 1991 when Ric Flair, who had never lost the NWA title, came into the WWF with the belt. However, egos at the top of WWF, they mentioned McMahon and Hogan during that time period, prevented them from taking full advantage of Flair's past and caused the angle, which had been among the hottest in wrestling, to sputter. After some strong early houses, since Flair was never portrayed as an outsider who hated the WWF and instead was painting as another WWF newcomer with a fake belt as a gimmick to challenge Hogan. Interesting kind of concept that I never really considered. They could have used this to build up WrestleMania 8, where they eventually went two different directions with the real world champion thing. They did kind of ride Flair, but they didn't validate the NWA as a, I guess, equivalent.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you're admitting that someone else is on your same level. I think Bischoff being able to admit, hey, WWF's on the same level. They're competitors. They're world champions, can compete with our guys. That's where you get this actual legitimacy to this invasion storyline.
Yeah, I feel like they really botched when Flair went to WWF with the NWA title. I thought it was done poorly. The response of it, they were awesome. Like, I love that they bored the belt out, you know, and they wouldn't let them show it on TV, and it was one of those things, but like, they really could have pushed hard on that. And I think that's one of the biggest mishaps from having two of the biggest names in a company at one time and not pulling the trigger on it, because they totally shit the bed with it. And if that Mania would have been so much better if they put all their cards down, put all their chips in on this match, champ versus champ, which they didn't, and it just sucks. So
what do you believe for that? Do you believe it's just because Hogan and Flair didn't do well on the house shows that they weren't clicking, or do you truly believe that it was an ego thing, or Hogan wanted to work with somebody else instead of Flair?
I think Hogan might have been scared to work with Flair, and I think Vince was doing everything to protect his baby. So I think there's higher ups prevailed against that one, because I think we all know Flair is not against jobbing. Flair will take the fall for anybody. That's Ric Flair says it best himself. He loses with dignity and style. That's what puts over the talent. And we've seen it happen thousands and thousands of times. Ric Flair's known for it, you know. So I don't think it had anything to do with Flair. I think it was mostly Hogan and Vince, and they couldn't get their heads out of their asses to make magic happen, make money.
Sounds familiar. Sounds like what they're doing today, and missed opportunities all over the place. But the Ric Flair Hogan thing feels like a missed opportunity, even though we've seen it countless times since that point. But when you have two people at the highest, at their peak of their game, facing each other with WrestleMania at stake and the biggest stage, it's a missed opportunity no matter how you slice it. Putting Hogan versus Sid Justice and Randy Savage versus Ric Flair feels like a big missed opportunity. Yes, we get Hogan versus Ric Flair on Nitro. We've reviewed it here. It does not feel the same. The stage already passed. It's a missed opportunity, and I think we look back on it as what could have been. I mean, like I said, even if the guys didn't work as well together, they were the two biggest faces in wrestling, and if you would have built it as two world champions, an incoming thing, and if Hogan could have put his ego aside and had Flair take the title in that way, man, it could have been huge.
It would have been absolutely huge. I mean, their feud went on for years. They even had a match in TNA at some point. You know, it was
very bloody match. Yep.
Very bloody match, and a very, very bad match to rewatch. Hogan, it was right after Hogan had that back surgery. He went to go do the big boot, and he couldn't even get his leg up past Flair's hip. Like it was the shits. But I think they could have made so much money on this doing it in WWF at the time, and they just missed the mark, man.
I think a lot of why these invasion angles work elsewhere and not here in WWF. You look even at the actual Invasion 2001 didn't work because it has to be, at some capacity, you have to make your competitor look like they're better or on the same playing field as you, or sometimes they get the upper hand where you think they're going to lose because good storytelling has back and forth. You have the doubt that maybe WWF, if they're portraying themselves as the good guy in this scenario, there needed to be doubt that they would lose the feud. Survivor Series being the ultimate, I guess, culmination of this feud, where the stakes of ownership were going to go to Shane and Stephanie, if I remember correctly. But you never felt that way. You always felt that WCW was being undercut at the knees because it felt like Vince is like, you know what? I'm just going to shit all over WCW's legacy while I have control of it. And it fell flat. You have to be willing to sacrifice your product to get something else over. And I think right now we talk about Tony Khan progressively thinking about his product. That's why I believe Ring of Honor will work, because he's willing to make sacrifices with the AEW promotion to make Ring of Honor work, even though he wasn't the original creator of it.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And also, like that's the invasion angle, if it was done better, I think it would have sold the WWE network packaging much, much better. I think if you put over WCW as strong as they were, if you had a Sting, you had these guys that were big names in WCW, a Goldberg at the time, Hogan, Hall, Nash. I think a lot of people would be wanting to revisit it more, having that memory. You know what I mean? So like, I think the damage done to WCW once Vince bought them really hindered the overall product in the future. So like we would be seeing so much more out of it. I think ECW, WCW, I think you would get a bigger investment into it after all these years. I watched the Invasion live, but I grew up on WCW. There's a lot of people that didn't, so all they think of WCW is Booker T, Hugh Morris. It's not what we grew up with. It's not Flair, Macho Man, Savage, the Giant. It's all bullshit. And I think WWF, Vince McMahon, they really fucked it up by not putting that out there. It was a big deal, man.
Yeah, man. And the thing is, like we talk about all the time, putting your ego aside, you now own WCW. It's like it would benefit you to make it as profitable as just as much as any of your intellectual property. Making them feel big is like he wanted to get revenge and take shots at them while they were down. The biggest victory he got was purchasing it. And the bigger, I guess, FU to Eric Bischoff would be to make it bigger than it ever was.
Yeah.
And he can't look at it that way because he didn't create it. And I think that's part of the issue. And it continues to be the issue as long as WWE is a McMahon-driven promotion. We see in the news this week, AEW versus an AEW WWE promotion cross-promotional show is something Tony Khan's willing to talk about. But as long as Vince is there, there's no way that they ever consider doing that, because in some capacity, WWE has to look bad. There's going to be matches that AEW beats them. That's how it works.
Yeah.
One hand washes the other. It has to be an even playing field, that maybe your guys are going to look weaker. And, for someone that for them, they can't think that way. They can't think for the bigger picture. They just think about themselves in the immediate.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Man, it's frustrating, because you think about the potential that was not only 1996, but you think about today. We have so many potential huge cross-cultural wrestling things that could blow it up to the point where we had it in the late 90s, where it's not quite there yet. 2 years from now, when wrestling becomes the biggest thing in pop culture, where it's all over the place, you're seeing wrestling shirts everywhere, and and the ratings are triple, quadruple what they are today, that people are actually excited about 2 million viewers. I mean, think about the viewers we're getting on Raw and Nitro on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
We didn't even have DVR. We didn't have other ways to watch the product. It was just live goddamn television. It just, people need to put their own egos aside to make for a better product. But we can talk about that in length another time. Absolutely. I'm sure it will come up again. So they had an ad for the Great American Bash on June 16th. They had a brief clip of Hogan, which is highly misleading since he's not on the card. During the ad, that'll appear on the Barker channel. Since the opener was a double countout and did a fake drawing and announced Norton and Ice Train got the second round bye, who were in the Battle Royal. So this was on Slamboree they're talking about. So Great American Bash had Hogan on it. We do see a lot of Hogan video packages throughout Nitro.
Yeah.
I still believe that they didn't have the plan for Hogan to turn heel. I think they wanted to have him have this big triumphant return to save WCW, but it backfired.
Yeah. It was weird watching the Hogan packages that they were showing during these Nitros. It made me feel like that they were trying to swerve people a little bit more so, but I still don't think they had anything planned. I think it was very, very last minute put together, because I mean, I'm pretty sure Hogan was dead set on not turning heel until the moment happened, you know. So it's interesting to see. I'm surprised they were putting over Hogan so much during these shows, though. I was like, holy shit.
It was surprising to see, because if you want him to leave, it really makes me believe that he wasn't planning on turning heel. Because if you want him to be the furthest thing from your mind, if you're going to have him return and make that triumphant return, and then pull the rug out on fans and have him turn heel to have a bigger effect. And it obviously had a huge effect, but you would just make him, oh my God, I forgot about Hogan, and he's here. We're so pumped. And then it happens, but they're hyping up his return nonstop all the way up to Bash at the Beach, as if he's coming back as a good guy. So who knows?
It might have been a swerve. So, I mean, you never know. It might have been, that might have been their intent, was showing these Hogan packages and be like, yeah, he is WCW. It's Hulk Hogan. And then, he does the turn, and it just melts everybody's fucking brains, which it did. It was awesome.
It did melt everybody's brains. And what also melted my brain reading this was the Giant defending his WCW title in New Japan, which he will be doing later this summer, July 23rd and 24th in Sapporo. Also coming for those 2 dates are Ric Flair, Randy Savage, and Sting. So again, we're seeing Eric Bischoff, WCW working cohesively with New Japan Pro Wrestling, to the point where we talked about the week that the Giant won the title, being able to hone his craft and work with guys that have a little bit more of that stronger style in Japan, but also bring the WCW title. That is a huge, huge helping hand to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and a step in the right direction of building a positive relationship. It was awesome to read, because that's something Tony Khan would do.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant on Bischoff's part. Awesome shit.
So a few more Peace Festival notes. We're moving towards Peace Festival very quickly. WCW sent New Japan a letter saying they wanted signed papers saying that none of their wrestlers would appear on any television shoot or video shoot from the show, or they would pull out of the show. Peace Festival officials have known all along that none of the WCW talent could appear on video or on television shoots, so it shouldn't be a stumbling block. On the WCW local television show that airs in LA, there have been no mentions at all of the show. Dan Severn, after UFC, said he didn't know if he'd be doing the show. Continue to talk about other talent that won't be making it. The show continues to fall apart. As they're stumbling to June 1st, it becomes quite evident that it's not going to have this huge effect and be this wrestling landscape changing event that maybe Forbidden Door wasn't, but at least it delivered in the ring. This did neither. So Peace Festival falls flat. That's why no one even talks about it. That's why we learned about it for the first time. Yeah. And we're talking about it here.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. You pull one part of the string And the whole sweater's gonna unravel, man.
Yeah, it's true.
That's exactly what happened here.
Yep. So we have Brian Clark, formerly known as Adam Bomb, denies he's going to WCW as part of the Blood Runs Cold campaign. So people are hitting him up and saying, are you part of this Blood Runs Cold thing? And obviously we know it turns out to be Glacier. Other rumors about the Blood Runs Cold thing was HAKUSHI. And there's also talking about he potentially could be part of the 3-man WWF team. Never read this before. Can you imagine the popcorn fart that would be HAKUSHI as the third man doing whatever his finishing move was on Randy Savage at Bash at the Beach? Like, we wouldn't be doing the show. There's no way we would.
Yeah, no, nobody would have got it. The point would have not been there. It would have hit a brick wall instantly.
I need a Photoshop. So extra cooler, if you're listening to this, I need not just a Photoshop. I need a cartoon version of NWO with HAKUSHI rocking the original shirt, and maybe just doing Hogan taunts as well.
Yeah,
or like a
third man
2K22 of just someone editing the footage of HAKUSHI coming down the ring. It's HAKUSHI coming. Like, I just need the whole thing. Someone better, well versed at the creative side of creating graphics. I need that done, please, and that'd be amazing.
I could already hear Heenan shitting all over it. Who the hell's this guy? What is this crap?
Meltzer, to the point, was talking about how HAKUSHI's contract is expiring in late November, and he was at Madison Square Garden, and who knows, man? The fact that's even considered was crazy in my brain.
Yeah, it's fucking mind-boggling.
All right, so the Road Warriors were on WXRT in Chicago, which is the local radio station. Is that still a radio station today?
I don't think so. I know it was like the Rock, WXRT in Chicago, rock. But Mancow's still on the air, which I'm reading.
Yeah, so the host Mancow talked. That's crazy. He's still on the air all these years later.
Yeah.
Give someone else a break, dude. Come on, let's go.
He's got his own little morning show still. He's the only guy that does the morning shows. Yeah,
legend. So the host Mancow talked about how Ultimate Warrior looks like a midget now. Their words, not mine. Must be the world's largest and most muscular small person in history, which led the Warriors to talk about WCW's foolproof steroid policy and mentioned they used them in the past, but not anymore, and said they don't think it's fair that Bill Clinton isn't drug tested, but they have to be.
Solid point.
So they're getting some heat with the steroid issue, and the Road Warriors. Obviously, you can watch shoot interviews, not passing judgment, but they have been connoisseurs of the steroids to build up their body type, and that's the culture that it was in the 80s and the 90s.
Sometimes still is to this day.
Yep.
Not throwing shade at anybody, but when they say go out there and get big, kid, before you get signed, that's usually what they mean.
Very true. So yeah, more of the steroid stuff popping up, and obviously it's an issue, and people forget about it as the early 2000s start, because to get bigger, get better for TV.
Yeah.
Like, think about Dave Bautista. I'm not saying he uses steroids, but the goal to get pushed pretty quickly is to be muscular. So if someone who doesn't have the propensity to put on muscle like a Dave Bautista or a John Cena naturally, I mean, you're going to get a guy like Chris Masters in mid 2000s where he's going to use steroids and become big.
Absolutely. And Mancow was always the controversial jock host of Chicago. So he was always pulling those kind of strings out, always asking really, really crazy shit. So it was interesting.
So Brian Pillman had a meeting with Vince McMahon on May 23rd and had a meeting set with Eric Bischoff on May 28th, but the meeting never took place. It was expected that he'd make a decision as to which group he'll go with shortly. The betting line seems he's going to WWF, as he and WCW are far apart on money. This is fresh off of the fact that he was injured, potentially career-ending with the ankle being shattered. Before he got injured, he was expected to get a major push on ECW television this week. Because of his injury, the match is still a couple months away. So Pillman's still playing the angle. We will see him in 97, some of the best work of his career.
Absolutely.
It happens despite the injuries that happened in that horrific car accident. But yeah, I mean, we're just seeing more Pillman here throughout 1996, and he's still playing the bargaining chip. It just shows how great he is that he is able to get his money despite being pretty much limited to sitting down with the ankle being shattered. It's insane.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the story too about Texas Tornado, that he was working with one foot.
Yeah.
Did you know that story? Like, I didn't know that until they did the Dark Side of the Ring with the Von Erichs, that he was working with one foot and never told anybody.
Yeah, no, I heard about it a little maybe a couple of years before Dark Side of the Ring, but I mean, absolutely crazy.
Can you imagine? Like, and especially hiding that with other people. I know it's, you can get changed by yourself and stuff, but nobody knew. It's insane.
It is very insane.
So right now we have WCW talking about bringing in Chris Jericho later in the year. So Chris Jericho working in ECW at the time, getting his name out there as El Corazon de Leon in ECW. So a lot going on with Chris Jericho. Then, now, forever. Jericho Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
And we also will not have Finley back until 1997. So goodbye to Mr. Finley for us. David Finley, they call him here. We know him as Fit Finley. They
our
also
favorite feud.
the Belfast Brawler.
Yeah.
He's
our favorite ass beating of WCW is him and Regal, man. And it's a shame that he's gone for the year.
So happy trails, Finley. We'll see you somewhere down the line. Maybe we'll do another era that you're involved in, but it was a pleasure covering your matches. Fit Finley is a legend. Are you ready to get your fix, my man? I know that was a lot of the newsletter. We went for about 40 minutes.
Shit. I mean, we've done worse, right? Leave the memories alone. Dave Finley, we hope to see you back in action soon. Let's get our fix, brother.
It's time to get our fix. It is time to get our fix, and the first WCW Monday Nitro we will be covering is the May 27th, 1996 episode, live from Macon, Georgia, the Macon Coliseum. Right now, our current champions, WCW champs, the Giant is our world champion, U.S. champ is our boy Conan, the world tag team champion, still Sting and Lex Luger, world television champion Lex Luger, and the world cruiserweight champion is Dean Malenko, who won it back on May 18th. So some of the titles are becoming pretty comfortable where they're at. Dean Malenko is the latest champion. Lex Luger, everyone's been holding their titles for a bit here. Giant obviously won in April, but yeah, we don't have any title changes. I'm looking forward to seeing some down the line.
Me too, man. As it keeps going, it gets a little repetitive, but listen, all do good storytelling because, things do shake up eventually and it's going to get good. So I'm here for it.
So full transparency, I did not put in, and as I'm thinking about this, did not put the scroll for the bottom. So bear with us. Just follow along with us. I mean, I can do it as we speak, but you know what? We're here.
Where's the fun in that? Yeah.
We're getting our fix right now. So our first match here, and you guys have to listen to us carefully because it's not on the bottom for you to doze off and not pay attention. You can't just catch up. You have to follow along, or you can look it up online.
There you go.
So our hosts, we have Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko starting. They weren't even sitting at the regular Nitro announce position, which was weird. They were sitting over at the ringside table. So that was a new change for me.
Yeah.
But I think they're really trying to differentiate the 2 hours. Like similar, again, comparing this to today, Jim Ross gets control of the second hour. This is very WCW-esque that they're doing in AEW, but they want to create a different aesthetic for both hours because I guess they want to stagger it because there was talk that 2 hours was too long of a show and they were panicking. They wanted to make it feel like two different TV shows, and the announcers are part of that.
Yeah, very, very welcoming to get Zbyszko on the mic. I love Zbyszko's commentating. I think he's one of the best out there. Probably one of the most underrated commentators, I think, too. Nobody really talks about Zbyszko. He was always so good, especially when he got into that feud with Scott Hall in the future. It's one of my favorite parts of Scott Hall and WCW. It's just good shit, man. It was fun.
And he makes great cookies, too, man. Those Zbyszko cookies. No, Nabisco. So this is, as I mentioned, this is the first ever 2 hour Nitro. This will be the norm for all wrestling shows, the blueprint for successful wrestling shows. Being live in 2 hours, Nitro set the norm for that. And you can thank WCW, Eric Bischoff, and all the guys in WCW for the live content that we would continue to get through the late 90s and early 2000s. That was the making memories in our mind for the Attitude Era and beyond. So next year, I think they would move to 3 hours, right? By the time of 1999, they moved to 3 hours, which we know even Raw today is too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress. The fact that they were going head to head live with Raw is going to create some of the best content in wrestling history.
100%, man.
All right. So opening match, Ric Flair and Arn Anderson with Elizabeth and Woman defeating the American Males. So this is, again, a great opening match. The match goes 9 minutes and 59 seconds. The Four Horsemen get the win here. So the ending saw Arn Anderson overturning an inside cradle in Flair's favor. Doesn't get the pin. Bagwell delivers a fisherman suplex on Flair, but Arn runs in and kicks Bagwell to break up the bridge. Riggs nails Arn and drop kicks Flair. Bagwell covers Flair, so woman claws Bagwell as he gets to his feet. He gets hit into a DDT by Arn. Flair covers Bagwell for the 1-2-3. Before I mention Bagwell in the news, what are your thoughts on this match today?
A great use of the VIP table. I thought that was fantastic. Flair sipping champagne in the middle of the match, getting rowdy. You love it so much, man. That's what part of what makes Ric Flair. Ric Flair, one of the best outings for Bagwell and Riggs, man. I thought they did a really good job. I thought the match looked really good. It wasn't overly long. They didn't blow all their spots right away. I thought it was fantastic. And Flair and Arn could make anybody look like $1 million if they can make Buff Bagwell and Riggs look like $1 million.
So Flair and Arn are going to be taking on two football players, Kevin Green, and I forget the other guy's name, going into Great American Bash. So taking on the American males kind of fits the aesthetic. You have these two athletic guys. But we don't want to move too far away from Nitro. What were your thoughts about Buff Bagwell being in the news for the fake Twitter account? Did you hear any about that today?
Oh, I did not. Enlighten me, please.
So essentially, Buff Bagwell was posting a lot of things on Twitter and being very interactive with fans, and eventually got the blue check mark, and people were very excited about how interactive he's been. And there was some differing ideas, let's just put it like that. So he would post some certain ideas online. People would like retweet it and be very happy with what he's saying. And then someone would see him in person and he'd be a much different person. Joey Janela famously did say something about that, talking about shirts that he would wear that were not in alignment with some of the ideas that he was retweeting. I'll just leave it like that.
Fair enough.
But someone was impersonating Buff Bagwell online to the point where he got a check mark and he was actually signing merch for people. I think signing like 8x10s or something and charging people money. So quite
Insane.
a mess of a situation.
Yeah, very messy. I actually followed that account just because I thought it was Buff Bagwell. Because he was lighting some Twitter accounts up, man. He was being very, very 2022 would be the best way to put it. He was very, very protective of people. I mean, he was standing up for everybody and anybody. It was a good account to follow. It was great. When he was talking shit about decisions being on both shows, it was. I can't believe it's not Buff. Buff.
Sorry to burst your bubble and tell you that Buff Bagwell is not real, similar to Santa Claus, but alas,
we're gonna have to go throw out that 8x10. No.
So, but maybe during the GCW show we'll use the Janela tweet in the top fucking tweets segment, so you guys can get a little feel for that because it's more of a GCW style tweet. Nevertheless, the match was decent. 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Yeah, I mean, the American males look good here, and I think because of their opponents, we talk about dance partners being a big deal here. This is the first time the Buff and Scotty Riggs felt like a legitimate tag team, and I know we won't see them as a tag team getting the I guess, spotlight that they probably thought they might have. But these guys both have a decent history and decent run throughout WCW the rest of their career there, especially Buff.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here. We have Gene Okerlund meeting Ric Flair and the Entourage in the aisleway. Arn says he's never met a football player that he couldn't walk over the top to get a better fight. He never saw a woman that Ric Flair couldn't have had the snap of his fingers. Mongo's mad that now his old lady and not just some broad. Oh, yeah. And the football players are pussies compared to the Horsemen. So a lot being said here. Great segment. As you said, they're using the VIP table as a staple. I mean, this is like the third week in a row we're seeing this. Ric Flair is all time here. And I feel like he's gotten into his own, building on momentum because of the fact once they took the title off him, I think he was free to do his own thing. And I feel like the best Ric Flair we've seen so far in 96 has been involved in this feud, which is surprising to say. Yeah,
no, I loved every minute of it. His promos are, I like how Mean Gene's like, just a quick word with you, Flair, and it was like a fucking 5-10 minute promo. Like it was great. It was fantastic and an entertaining 5-10 minutes. You were listening to him, you're captivated. He's Ric Flair, man. He pulls you in and he gets you right face to face with him when he does those promos. I fucking love it.
Yeah, we're about 20 plus days away from his last match in Nashville, Tennessee, and all that's going on, the pomp and circumstance with that, with the Conrad Thompson vehicle StarCast event. So that should be interesting, and he'll be in the news now. And the promo we cut here, the promo we cut in 2022, Ric Flair knows what he's doing to elicit emotion, and the emotion that he wants for you here, he wants to be a dastardly heel. So he knows his job and he does it really well. And he makes everyone around him a better guy. We talk about in the ring, but also out of the ring.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So I mentioned that they'd be wrestling football players at Great American Bash. The other is Mongo McMichael. My apologies to Mongo. My bad, Mongo. He's going to be teaming with Kevin Green, and we have a training montage for the both of them. So working out, not met with the ravest reviews about their workout. People talking about how they could look much tougher. I always think the peak of a workout routine as a build up to a match has to be, to me, Vince McMahon build up to his match with Stone Cold Steve Austin, or even WrestleMania 22 when he's wrestling Shawn Michaels. That build up is great too.
Oh,
Shane
absolutely.
McMahon and the running and the chickens and stuff, like that is all time for me.
No, this is great. I took a mental note that this was a very, very 1990s segue. It just looked, they had that stuttering camera when they're working out and shit. It's like, it was too much, but in the best way possible.
All right, so this is the biggest moment we're going to have tonight. And who would have thought it would be with the Mauler, with Colonel Robert Parker and Steve Dahl, because of what happens. We'll talk about the match. It's a no contest. Match was an absolute dud, as bad as you probably can imagine. Mike Enos is the former, if you guys remember, member of the tag team in WWF known as Well Done. I guess the cool spot in the match I did write down was a super fallaway slam. But then we get Razor Ramon. So take the floor here. Let's talk about Scott Hall appearing on the show and how you felt watching this again in 2022, all these years later.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. So we're getting this match. It felt like jobber. You know, they were just doing their thing. Steve Dahl comes out looking like a Wish.com version of Kurt Hennig. Fucking hilarious. It was great. So a very lackluster match. It was really feeling like that. Then everybody starts getting up and they're fucking freaking out and they're pointing around. And it was like the announcers don't know what the fuck's going on. And then you see this tall, greasy man coming through the crowd dressed in all denim. Just hops over the barricade like fans would clamor to do back in the 90s, and just walks into the ring, grabs the microphone, and the infamous moment of Scott Hall getting in that ring. Hey, you people know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Where's Billionaire Ted? Where's the Nacho Man, Randy Savage? Yeah, it's so good, man. I love when the Punk can't get even in the building, but me, I go wherever I want. Fucking
so good.
You can't have done this better. We're Scheme Jim. I got a scoop for you. I don't think you could have did this with anybody else to make it feel so legit. Because even watching it, I was like, God damn, how good was Scott Hall? How good is he carried this shit for what, 3 weeks until Nash gets there, and he's still the talker when Nash gets in. Nash comes in, talks some shit, but motherfucker, Scott Hall, man, you want a war? Well, you're gonna get one. You know, it was so good, and the announcers. You got Bischoff, everybody just playing. What the hell's going on? What is he doing here? Love what is he doing here? Not what is Scott Hall? What is Razor Ramon? They fucking sold it so perfect. God, I love it. I love wrestling.
It's so good. And this is, I mean, you said it. I love wrestling too, man. This is the moments we live for. And I think on the debate last week, they talked about this nostalgia make us look at history in rose-colored glasses. And sometimes the moments don't align with how we felt as kids. This, though, I feel lives up. It's almost better throughout history because you know how it all unfolds. You know the full scope of Scott Hall's career, where it goes, where the NWO thing goes. And I truly don't believe if you don't introduce him in this way, it doesn't have the same effect. I truly believe that. It's all about first impressions and making people believe there's legitimate cause for concern. And part of the things I took in my notes was everybody gets out of the ring.
Yeah.
They didn't finish the match. It was a no contest, by the way. We got to take a shot. And also, Nick Patrick leaves as well. So Nick Patrick gets out of the ring. He cuts the promo. So if you're watching, you're like, this didn't feel real. It wasn't like he attacked any of the competitors. He didn't hit a razor's edge on any of those guys in the ring. He wasn't starting a feud with the Mauler or Steve Dahl. It was about him exactly taking on the persona of his WWF origins without saying it. It's just, it's about what's unspoken here. And he says a lot in that promo, but it's also about what he doesn't say that leaves people hanging on the edge of their seat. And when you had Randy Anderson, the other WCW ref, coming out, getting on the apron, yelling at him to get out of the ring, and then Scott Hall just peacefully exits, he becomes not so much a wrestling character. It becomes like he's truly an invader, more so than that first episode of Nitro in 95, where you see Lex Luger come in, because he's initiating conflict with the wrestling program. This felt like Scott Hall was outside of the wrestling program. He's initiating conflict with upper management of WCW, making fun of the promotion. It just felt different. Street clothes, the aesthetic, that's the norm now, but it wasn't then. Like the fact he came out in jeans and looking the way he did, that became the expected. Scott Hall, he was a trailblazer here. And man, like this aged so well for me.
Yeah. Like even I was watching it back again this afternoon, and my nephew came out. He's like, "Is that Scott Hall?" I was like, "Yeah." And he just kind of sat and watched it with me. He was like, "Wow, this is crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, man, right?" Like, and he's only 11, like, but he gets it. He was like, "Wow, this is nuts." And I was like, he was so good. Chico, he was the best.
On that note, let's take a shot, not only for the no contest, it's not even for the no contest, it's for the debut of Scott Hall in WCW. Also, rest in peace, only a few months gone. Wish he was still around, contributing to the wrestling business. Gone too soon, but a life well lived, man. Scott Hall is every bit as talented then that as I remember. I mean, some things don't age well, and nostalgia does blur the line a little bit for us. Scott Hall's better than I actually remember. And this is coming from someone who didn't watch this live. I was a WWF kid, as you guys all know. But Scott Hall, man, this was programming we were not getting. We get a lot of these types of promos now, like the MJF stuff, the Christian stuff, blurring the line of what's real and what's not. It didn't happen then. Like this didn't happen at all. You want to talk about the curtain call stuff? Things like Scott Hall coming in and just calling out Ted Turner on live television on his network did not happen. So people like, this has to be real.
And I love the hillbilly, WCW. It's fucking great, man. Yeah, man. Fucking some of the best wrestling shit happening right in front of our eyes. So grateful we get to go back and relive it and watch it again.
But also, before we take the shot, the fact, and you said it right there, he made the goofy laugh, talked about WCW in that insulting way.
Yeah.
Being okay with that as a executive, you have to be okay with him disparaging your brand because he's making you money.
You'd never see
I know people will talk about that, but
you'd never see it in WWE, nor would you have seen it in WWF. That's why the NWO was so big when they came to WWE, or WWF. I think they were still WWF at the time.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, right before the switch, but it was that was bigger than the invasion. That's how impactful this moment was, to where Vince turns his chair around. I'm gonna poison him with my own creation. Like it's great, man. But yeah, none of this would happen without this moment right here. Wrestling would never be where it's at without this moment right here. This is definitely one of the trend-setting things that picked up wrestling to a whole fucking different level, man.
Yep. So guys, if you haven't watched this episode, you're just watching, going along with WCW 1996, what are you doing? Turn it on Peacock.
Yeah.
Or just watch it on YouTube. The whole promo is on YouTube. Check it out. Or go on my Instagram page at ACEFIELD RETRO. I posted pretty much the whole promo. It's awesome. So let's take a shot of nostalgia for our first non-finish, our WCW no contest.
Hey, yo.
All right. Our next match here, we have Diamond Dallas Page defeating Sergeant Craig Pittman. This match goes 3 minutes and 1 second. This is a glorified squash match. We have DDP hitting the Diamond Cutter for the win. DDP has this mini push fresh off that Slamboree Lethal Lottery Battle Royal win. Not much to talk about here. This is kind of a filler match, but again, a nice win for DDP. It's weird to see where he's at here. he's still sort of working the kinks out of what his character is going to be, but you could see him flirting with eventually what the People's Champion would be in WCW, but when he'd be world champion.
Yeah, I hate that they on the network or on Peacock, whatever you want to call it now, that they use that terrible Nirvana knockoff music. Because like I don't think he used it until he started wearing the jeans and the vest. So they're already jumping the gun. Like they could have gave him any fucking stock music that they had, but they have to just ruin the whole thing. Like once he starts wearing the jeans and and he comes out with the vest and he is DDP, bro. I mean, this is a build up to it. We're slowly seeing it get there, but way to kill the magic by throwing that out there already. And it's just a little quirk, but I mean, listen, it was a good DDP match. Wasn't terrible. Love the diamond cutter spot here. It looked good. It was like the original from out of nowhere. It wasn't a bad match. It was fun. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. Pittman, I'm good on him. You could say his name with an SH in front of it and take out that P, man, because he's the shit, man.
All right. So, yeah, as you said, Craig Pittman can go away.
Yeah.
So we take a video look at Randy Savage and the Macho Madness over the last few months and things that are happening to him. They're still trying to get over the fact that he's insane and trying to create this blurring the line character. And ironically, Scott Hall debuts in the same show where that's the character that they probably wanted to portray with Randy Savage. It felt like it's wrestling where Scott Hall felt like it was real life. And I think it was very evident when they're doing both on the same show.
Yeah,
so
100%.
We have Shark standing in the locker room with Gene Okerlund. He parted ways with the Dungeon of Doom on the Slamboree pre-show. Now he's getting a world title shot tonight. So as you remember, he is the guy who almost destroyed Hulkamania in 1990. He's formerly known as Earthquake, also known in the late 90s as Golga. We all know and love him as John Tenta. So they follow this up with a video montage for Hulk Hogan. And they're just showing him doing some stuff with celebrities, charity events, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to keep Hulk Hogan in your mind. But a couple things to talk about here. John Tenta as the Shark. Is this potentially the worst gimmick that he had? I mean, Golga sucked, but the Shark is so bad.
The face paint. I guess the best thing that comes out of Shark is Shark Boy eventually down the line.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. I thought it was a shit gimmick. Not Shark Boy, but Shark. Shark Boy was way better because he incorporated Stone Cold at least. This was one of the most passable promos backstage. I was just like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Earthquake as Earthquake with the Natural Disasters. I loved his run in the early 90s. As gross as that singlet actually was, he felt like, man, scary. When I used to rent the Coliseum video from 1991 SummerSlam where he destroys Hulkamania and everyone's writing the letters to Hogan to get him better in the hospital. This is a far cry from that, but he's still getting a world title shot here against the Giant. This match goes 4 minutes. Shark's your new champion. No, I'm just kidding. Giant.
Yeah.
Giant.
Fuck what? I couldn't even imagine.
So Shark can't even knock the Giant down. The Giant completely squashes him, which, you know what? I'm okay with this match. And the Giant is defending his title with great frequency, not only in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but also here against anyone that will come up against him. They make him look strong while not sacrificing the main event level talent. I'm okay with this. To see the world title defended here on Nitro, I love seeing it. Some people go against it. They think the world title should only be defended in big matches, but there's two schools of thought. I think that there's time and place to defend it against these guys. Similar to what we saw at John Moxley. I'm not saying Brody King is the Shark because he's much better than the Shark, but having guys that are not expected world title contenders just yet to get a title shot, it feels special on the show, even though Shark, maybe you knew he wasn't winning. I think everyone knew he wasn't winning unless,
Yeah, I mean, listen, 96 is a different time. You might have went into this like, Shark's gonna fucking kill the Giant, man. That's Earthquake, brother. That's he's gonna make him fucking in the hospital where you have to write letters to the Giant. Listen, the Giant looked great in this, I thought, and as he's been running with this championship run, they keep building him up better and better each match, and it's important for somebody as green as he is to get into these matches. You're talking about Earthquake. I mean, he was a big deal a couple of years before this. So that just adds into building up the Giant as a character and to becoming one of the biggest big men that we've seen in our lifetimes.
So I'm going to blow your mind for a second, and time does this to people. But he's 5 years removed from that 4 years removed. No, 5 years, 1996, 1991. 5 years removed from that SummerSlam match with Hogan. Bryan Danielson is 8 years removed from his WrestleMania 30 title win. How weird is that?
That's crazy. It's you know what? It's
time is funny like that.
Well, I mean, as we get older, we get less of it, obviously, and I guess it feels maybe our mindset wants to make it seem like it was a shorter time away, but it is crazy to think like when you're a kid, 5 years is a fucking eternity. I remember being 6 and looking at somebody who's 13. It's like, man, I can't wait to become that guy. And then it's like you hit 13 and then you're 25 by the fucking a week later. It goes by so quick, man. But yeah, that's wild. Good stat pulling there. Like,
yeah, that's the way my brain works. I always look at the eras of wrestling and how different wrestling was from 1990 to 1995, just the 5 years that go past in the landscape where you have Warrior to Shawn Michaels. And then 5 years from 2017 to 2022 feels like the same year. Like it's like the same shit's going on.
No, it's crazy, man. Like even I don't want to defer too much, but even with Punk coming back, it didn't really feel like Punk was gone for that long. But 7 fucking years is a long time. But like when it happened, everybody's like, "Woo, Punk!" But like I think that's where a lot of the criticism happens because they're like, "Man, he's not as good as he was. He looks fucking old now." Like, because he is fucking old.
Yeah,
he's not 30 fucking 2 anymore. He's a grown ass man. It's wild.
Or even if you go further with it, the rematch between Warrior and Hogan at Halloween Havoc, the dreadful match that they had was only 8 years removed from their match that they had at WrestleMania 6. It felt like it was an eternity ago, but 8 years from now, if we get CM Punk versus Jon Moxley, who they wrestled with the Shield, it would be the same amount of time, but it would feel like bigger and better. And both guys are more well-tuned. I know that's more of a conversation about wrestlers taking care of their bodies and the style of in-ring work and all that. But time is crazy.
It's mind-boggling, man. And like, I remember when Warrior signed with WCW, I was like, what? I lost my shit. I was like, we're getting Warrior. Then you got that One Warrior Nation thing that happened. It was just like,
Well, to think of how close he was with signing with WWF, all those stories about it, they were just an agreement on the comic book intellectual property rights away from him being a part of the Attitude Era. I can't even imagine what they would have done. Yeah. What does that booking look like in 1997 with Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, the rest of the night, Brian Pillman, and then you got Ultimate Warrior? And maybe they would have done a more realistic character where he's not wearing the face paint, or who knows? But it's a weird
Jim Hellwig. He's going to come back here. He's going to have a big J painted on his face.
Oh, my God.
We're going to call him the hooker. No.
Speaking of, I guess, dreadful things, we have Lex Luger wrestling a man named Max. So Bischoff mentions the interruption during the match. This was a classic match where the commentators are not really focused on the match itself. They're talking about the things that are happening outside of the ring.
Yeah.
So this is DDP's old lackey, Max Muscle. Max is controlling the biggest chunk of the match, pushing Luger around. Luger gets the one with the torture rack. Was way too long and ugly, in my opinion. 5 minutes and 45 seconds too long. Lex Luger retains the title. Yeah, so match defending the TV title. That's the first time I've seen the TV title defended in a bit. Lex Luger focused on mostly the tag team style stuff. It was nice to see the TV title defended in this capacity.
Yeah, very true. It was a shit match. Torture rack looked great. I laughed my ass off at the commentators going, "It's Max with an extra X." it was just bad. Like silly shit, but it wasn't bad. I hate when they kind of like, it works for some things, but you can't have it. Like, we have a whole show built on these kind of matches right now. So we have Shark, we got Max, we're gonna have hard work Bobby Walker. It's just like it's not appealing when it's done so much.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Pittman fucking
well, the contrast, it's awesome because the contrast of Scott Hall coming out feels even more realistic when you have the rest of the TV show being these shitty characters, and probably not done intentional, but that really makes the Scott Hall effect feel that much bigger because of how corny like a lot of these characters are. Like Max is corny. Like there's no way around it. It feels like 1989 wrestling
haircut and like he just a shit gimmick. He was an imitation Mike Awesome. It was just blah. But I listen, like I said, the torture rack looked good.
Yeah,
good to see the title being on TV. Not dark match shit. Not Saturday night. It was good to see it on a Nitro.
So next match we wish wasn't on a Nitro. We have Hard Work Bobby and Bobby Walker versus Brett Armstrong. So Bobby Walker gets the win here. Hard Work pins Brett Armstrong. Brett Armstrong fresh off the Cruiserweight Championship title shot. So falling down the card, 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Bobby Walker, just for history's sake, was the member of the WCW power plant that sued WCW for being racist, and they settled out of court. So you look up that stuff too. That's the only reason that I knew his name throughout wrestling history. So Bobby Walker has some history there. But yeah, he sued them for being racist or whatever. But this match sucked.
It was the drizzling shits even for a Brett Armstrong match. No,
Brett Armstrong is like the Brooklyn Brawler of WCW, man.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah. The next match here we have Lord Steven Regal versus Alex Wright. Love Regal, man. This match goes 7 minutes and 18 seconds. Alex Wright gets the win here with the jackknife roll up. Match was pretty good. William Regal seems like he's a little, or Steven Regal seems like he's kind of at a loss since that feud with Finley's been over.
Yeah,
we're going to see a little bit of a change in his character throughout 1997, late 1996. So he's going to change a little bit from this British colonial cartoony character to more of the William Regal, Steven Regal that we know in WWE, WWF.
Yeah.
So the in-ring work has always been the same. It's been very quality. So whenever he's on my TV, I'm checking it out. And Alex Wright is pretty good in the ring. So this match was pretty good. Some good spots here. There was a near fall with Regal with the schoolboy. Regal was hitting the ground and pound style that worked earlier. Wright fires back with a drop kick and mounts another comeback. And Regal taps a break on a monkey flip and pins Wright with a jackknife. So I'm sorry, Steven Regal got the win here. I don't know why I thought Alex Wright. I put in my notes that he got the win. So Steven Regal got the win here.
I was confused too because I just watched it. I was like, pretty sure Regal won, but if you say Alex Wright won, I believe you over my brain.
No, I honestly, I actually, to full transparency, there's a match on the next Nitro where Steven Regal is the TV champion. I'm getting really ahead of myself, but I was looking up how to pronounce Prince Iaukea, and I was like, I don't know how to say his name because they say it two different ways in his debut the next week. He beats Regal for the TV title and loses in 1997. So this was like something I was looking. So it was and ends the same way with a jackknife roll up. So it blew my mind. So I was like, oh, I think Alex Wright won. But anyway, Regal gets the win here. I'm sorry, Regal. Put the one in that corner and then take away the loss, man. Well-deserved win.
Listen, Alex Wright did win in some regards because this is probably his best match ever.
Yeah, honestly, and then he talks about in the post interview, he wants to wrestle Sting at Great American Bash, and I'm all here for that Steven Regal versus Sting match. That's a dream match for me.
Absolutely, man. Crazy, absolutely crazy.
All right, so here is a very good match, and it does end in a double DQ, so get that shot ready. Sting versus Scott Steiner in a double DQ. This match was really, really good. Scott Steiner was able to still go. Still very similar to the Scott Steiner we knew from the 90s tag team with Rick in WWF before Scott Steiner got too big to move around. Sting, of course, is a legend moving around in his own way. Really, really good match. Goes 10 minutes and 16 seconds. The ending saw trading suplex attempts on the apron, ending with Sting flipping Scott to the outside. Scott goes for a suplex on the floor, and Luger comes over to break that up. That creates a disturbance and a big fight erupts in the ring as the ref throws out the whole shebang. To me, this match was really good, back and forth action.
Yeah.
A bunch of random WCW baby faces come down to separate the two teams. This is building towards the Steiners versus Sting and Lex Luger for the tag titles. I think will happen next week. The next Nitro we're reviewing. Really good stuff, man. I really enjoyed this match. Very good match. And I think the fact that this is a 2-hour Nitro, they were able to let this match breathe a little bit, despite the double DQ.
Yeah.
This was a very, very good match. DQ be damned.
No, absolutely. This is probably one of my favorite matches of the program. That drop kick Sting hit Steiner with was unbelievable. Steiner looks so good. Like you look at this version of Scott Steiner versus a 2003 Scott Steiner, you would think they're different wrestlers. Scott was still able to move here. He wasn't overly jacked. He wasn't, just going out there doing Steiner recliners. He was doing fucking great work here, man. And this, God, he's just a testament of how badass Sting and Steiner are. I thought this was, you couldn't have put on a better match. It was great, even with the DQ.
Yeah, and like usually, and it's weird because like when I'm watching live, I still remember vividly, even back when DQs were a really big thing in the ruthless aggression era and also attitude era. DQs were like throwing them out like hotcakes, man. It didn't matter. It used to piss me off because it's lazy. But even watching here, it made a lot of sense to have neither one of these guys. And I know it's a crutch that people lean on, but maybe it's because we never see in AEW that it's. I look at it with rose-colored glasses that DQs aren't as bad.
Yeah.
But to me, it ages well here. And it's building toward that tag title match that you want to see because both guys look equally as strong and they couldn't control them in the ring. And it ages well for me. And I thought this match was really good.
Yeah, no, listen, I loved it. I love rewatching old Steiner Brothers stuff too, because you really, really get to see how great of a tag team they were, how great of competitors. Like this is a singles match, and this holds up to any main event we've seen in the last 3 weeks. This is great wrestling. I loved it. And God, that dragon suplex was beautiful.
So good.
Yeah, and then having Lex Luger come out and Rick Steiner kind of cheering in the corners, fucking around, like it was really, really well done. It wasn't like a shit, like you didn't leave this match feeling confused, going, "Oh, what the hell is this? This is stupid." Like blah blah blah. I thought it was fucking great.
So before the show goes off the air, we have Eric Bischoff was allowing the interruption, as they're calling him, to confront him with the challenge. But first, we got to take a shot. You're right.
Yeah.
Shot
Ooh.
All right.
Scott Steiner and Sting, man. It was a fucking
hell of
awesome
a match. That was a heavy pour. Matt from Extra Cooler for Badge of the Beach. You better bring your drink of choice, man. We got a lot to go through. I'm not sure how many DQs are on that Nitro and Bash of the Beach, but anyone joining us, make sure you bring your drinking shoes.
He hit me up after the first time we started doing the shots of nostalgia, and he was like, "That's a fucking bold move." I was like, Ace knows what's going on, man. We gotta roll with whatever is going on.
We gotta get the weekend star, man. It's Friday, baby.
Goddamn right, pal.
All right, so we have Eric Bischoff allowing Scott Hall to confront him at the announce table. So they end the show with this. So a couple of highlights of here. He repeats himself. You want to go to war? You want a war? You got one. Only let's do it right in the ring where it matters, not on microphones, not in newspapers or dirt sheets. Let's do it in the ring where it matters. And if Billionaire Ted and his big boys got any guts, because we are coming down here, like it or not, we are taking over, as he throws a toothpick in Bischoff's face. Legendary moment. Neither Bischoff or Heenan know what to say. They are shocked. So after all the WCW had tried to do in the last year to destroy WWF, from giving raw results on the air to spreading negative rumors about the WWF on the WCW hotline, the competition had invaded. It's almost as if there was a method to the madness of WCW. Even when it all seemed to appear by accident, everything that had happened on Nitro up to this point led to this moment with Scott Hall. You can call it brilliance or Bischoff stumbling on a prime opportunity, but no matter how you look at it, it's a history-making moment.
Huge.
So, holy shit, man. He did say we. So everybody probably was saying, oh my God, someone else is joining him, because he said, we are taking over. The fact that he said we was a big thing. And, I caught it immediately. Obviously, I know Kevin Nash is coming in.
Yeah.
But man, what a way to end Nitro. First 2-hour Nitro. This was awesome.
Yeah. No, listen, as a kid, when I seen this, when he said we, that was like, who's coming? And it didn't matter if it was Kevin Nash. Like, I didn't read dirt sheets. Yeah, if it was HAKUSHI, I would have been so pumped. It would have made the feud so much better. But this was so well done, and I love that they waited until the last segment, because it made you go, what the fuck is happening next week? I'm so excited. And like, it was the perfect setup, and Bischoff was just playing it so well. Like, what is going on? I don't know. And like, hey, Kendall, like, calm the fuck down. It was so fucking great.
So
man.
Good.
This holds up to any episode of any wrestling in the last 5 years. This was great, even with all the shit jobbers. I was super upset Max didn't win, but we'll get to that a different day. This was so good, and just you get goosebumps the second you see Hall in that ring. You're like, what the fuck, man? How did they do this so well without fucking it up? It was lightning in a bottle. It really was. You could not have done this better. If you would have did this in 99, it would not have went as well. If you would have did it in 92, it would not have been this well. This was perfect, man.
Do you think it's just blind accidental luck on Bischoff's part, or do you think a lot of what they were doing throughout the year led to this and this was calculated? Because I truly believe, reading the newsletter, watching the Nitros in depth like we are, that this was ticketed to be Brian Pillman's thing, that they wanted Brian Pillman to have this blurring the line of creating this WWF invasion angle. And I think Scott Hall came up on him with the contract, and it was right place, right time for him as well. But you got to give Bischoff his credit, right?
Yeah, I don't think Pillman would have done this as good as Scott Hall is.
I agree,
100%. I really don't. I think it would have been confusing, especially with all the shit going with Booker Man. I think it just would have became a shitty feud with Pillman and Taskmaster, and I'm good on that. This was. There's no way to. This is like the Elite showing up on Raw. There's no better way to put it. If Kenny Omega came out first, was like, "Hey, what's going on? The cleaner is here. You don't know why I'm here." It would have been that. There's no other way to explain it to fans these days. This is as big as anything that could have happened at the time. Because Razor Ramon coming fresh off his awesome run against Shawn Michaels, being the bad guy, being the top. It was him and Diesel carried the company for those last 2 years in WWF. And yeah, Shawn Michaels was there, but they're all growing up kind of, I when I tuned into WWF, I was there to watch Razor Ramon. He was one of the favorite fucking characters that was going on. And same thing with Diesel. I know Diesel gets a lot of shit. He didn't sell the tickets. He didn't sell the pay-per-views, but it wasn't his fault. It was wrestling's fault at the time, I think, yeah, man, you couldn't have picked two better dudes to do it. You couldn't have picked a better timing to do it. Blind fucking luck on Bischoff's part, I think. I think the stars just aligned.
Yeah, but it's also about striking one of the irons hot. And we talked about missed opportunities with, I went on a rant about it, about Riddle, when I was commenting in the Raw Down. Like, sometimes you need to pivot when things sort of break the right way. And the ratings and the way the fans were reacting to Riddle in that match with Roman Reigns, it made me feel like maybe don't make the decision to have him beat Roman that night, because you got to wait to let it play out. But maybe if he wasn't intended to win the Money in the Bank, you shift your perspective and say, you know what? Let's pull the trigger on him. He's 36 years old. He's not getting any younger. We need to find a new face of wrestling, and Austin Theory is going to be the guy for WWE. But I think it's detrimental to the momentum for Theory, because the fans don't want it. And you can talk about heat as a heel and heat as go away heat, because you're pushing someone down your throat. And there's two different things. Yeah. Roman Reigns had that back in the day. He wasn't a heel.
It was bad.
It was it was an absolute horrible decision, because they refused to move away from their stubborn thinking that, even think back to the Rumble in 2014 when they had him win, have Rusev win. Like, just think about it. Like, Rusev was so over at that point. Make a decision. And that's the problem with them, with WCW. Here back in 1996, they're pivoting, they're changing their plans. Obviously, if they had plans to have the third man being Sting, they changed it to Hogan. Yeah. And it was the best decision, because they were able to follow and read the tea leaves of what people actually wanted, what would be more effective.
It's wild how it works. Like that Roman Reigns shoving down your throat, that's like opening your fridge and going to check your milk. And you take that first whiff and it's spoiled, and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, it was always bad. And like, they can't continue to do this with talent over and over and over again. It takes away from the bigger picture. The whole reason why things work the way they do is because you have that backup Steve Austin, the Wing, the King of the Ring. You have backups that do things. We talked about it very, very well last week. AEW is a highway WWE's a fucking train. You know, they're stuck on the same rail. They don't know how to change directions when appropriate. AEW could flip flop and like Mox and fucking Forbidden Door was a beautiful match. They made well while they could with what they had, and WWE wouldn't do that properly.
Right.
It's just they would shit the bed with it because they would be like, oh, let's throw Austin Theory out there. He's such good shit, pal. You know, it's just like, come on, man. Like, make it worthwhile for the fans once in a while, and they'll sit through this bullshit. But WWE doesn't do that too often. That once in a while once in a great while with WWE, you'll get that great assault, a Daniel Bryan, a CM Punk, but they don't do it all the time. The Roman Reigns program, like, you can't do that all the time with everything.
But think about what it took to get Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan his moment at WrestleMania 30. It took CM Punk leaving. It took the fans rebelling on air. And I think a lot of what's going on in WWE is those fans that would be hijacking the shows are now watching AEW because they're just fed up. Now you have a lot of fed brain minded people watching WWE that's like, they're just going to eat the shit that they're shoveled into their plate because that's what, and whatever, if they enjoy it, that's for them. But I think going back to WCW, being able to pivot and change plans and follow things that are working.
Yeah.
You're not continuing to try to shove a round peg into a square hole because at the end of the day, you watch Hogan, he was not working as a face. And they could have said, you know what? He's Hogan. We're going to continue to throw the red and yellow at you guys. No matter what you say, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to love it. But they pivoted. Whether that was Hogan's decision or Bischoff's decision or both of them got together, they pivoted. And that's what the decision was made to make a better decision for the company. And it rewrites history. So
no, 100%. And that's the thing too, is like, you have to have that dumb luck once in a while.
True.
Like, it's okay to take a chance. Like, if Riddle would have won against Roman and they just took the title off for a week, even, like, they used to do that in the Attitude Era all the time. Somebody could win for a week and then it's like, no, we're gonna crack that. Jeff Hardy,
the Jericho thing, like the ref counted too fast, 99, like or the Moxley thing where Moxley won it and they took it off of him. Like, do a little test run.
Even with Jeff Hardy when he won the Intercontinental title off of Triple H, it was one of those things. It was like, oh, but it made people talk. I remember that news report went out and I was like, what? Jeff Hardy beat fucking Triple H. I can't wait to watch Raw next week. And like, it's those little things, even if you do it at a house show, it drags your program so much further than fucking it up. And enough about the Fed. It's WCW time.
So the last thing before we move on to the June 3rd Nitro is, in order to benefit from this blind luck, you have to be able to be open to changes. And I fully believe, and I will support this forever, if Stone Cold Steve Austin came around in 2022 in WWE, they would water it down, they would manufacture it, they would nitpick it, they wouldn't let it grow organically, and they'll never happen because no one can be bigger than the Fed.
Yeah, but they learned that lesson with Stone Cold and NWO and all this shit. We're watching it right now.
Right.
Yeah, if Stone Cold was to come out 2 years later and somebody else was doing the Stone Cold thing, there would be no Stone Cold.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It could have been an hour later than King of the Ring. I think that they laid that platform down as it was happening. So it's crazy.
It's important for us to go here and not be succumb to the revisionist history that WWE gives us.
Yes.
Where we all sit there and we're like, oh, they do the Monday Night War and they wax poetic about they ran with the tank and they did this whole thing and they won the war and they overcame the odds. They were the underdog. That's not how it went.
True.
Like,
that's
not how it went. Like,
listen, you could go to Europe and experience what World War I, II did to it, or you could read it in a textbook. WWE's textbook. Everything else is going there and experiencing it.
It's propaganda, man.
Propaganda at its finest. You're hearing one side of the story. It always makes it more important to check out everybody's side of the story to feel your adventure. Don't just back it up with, oh, we watched Raw. WCW sucked. No, watch WCW because 90% of the time they really weren't that bad. We got some really awesome matches just in what we've covered. Imagine what else is out there. They tell this to Tom all the time. He's like, oh, well, Booker T is terrible. I don't like Booker T. And I was like, man, you didn't watch Harlem Heat because Harlem Heat was fucking fire. which made Booker T elevate to the level he did, which made him a world champion, a five-time world champion, man.
Think about how good Booker had to be to overcome the fact that he had the WCW stink on him that he came into Vince McMahon's arms with, that he was that good that he became a world champion despite being not a WWE guy. So imagine how good he was prior to that, where he had the freedom to do the things that he could do in WCW. And people remember the stuff that's the bad stuff. They will think about 2001, think about the WCW Sin, that worst pay-per-view ever. They think about that WCW, but they're not talking about this shit that is we're reliving, and it's good shit. It's awesome.
Yep. Come on, man. What are you doing? Shucky ducky quack quack, man. What are you doing?
So we do have about a little less than 30 minutes. We're going to go a little bit faster through the June 3rd, 1996 episode. So WCW Monday Nitro, live from the Asheville, North Carolina Civic Center, June 3rd, 1996. Our champions are all the same, so no title changes. We open the show with our host, Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko. Before the opening match, we have Gene Okerlund getting a word with Shark. Big Bubba's playing with Shark's hair that he cut last week. Cut the music. You don't have any entrance music. Shark says he doesn't have to cut the other half of his hair. So big match that we have with John Tenta opening up the actual show. They're talking about how he's no longer the Shark. He's not an avalanche. He's not a fish. He's a man, God damn it. So John Tenta is going to be what he's going to be going by for the rest of his WCW days. He takes on Big Bubba. He gets the win via countout. Horrible match. 1 minute and 10 seconds. All I know it's count out. We got to take a shot of nostalgia.
Yeah, love Big Bubba's new gimmick though. I like the biker Bubba. It looks good.
Much better. Yeah, much better. Yeah. Big, and it's very akin to
better than Bubba Rogers.
Yeah,
where he's wearing the white shirt and the tie and
the Amish one.
Yeah, he's like Roadkill from ECW. So he's good. Yeah, it's Bubba Kill. Yeah, no, crazy. Shark. I love Shark looking one way the whole time, where his hair was actually laying down. Hold on, get my bottle back in there. There we go. But I loved when he was camera side. He was always the one with the hair. He never shield to the bald side.
I don't understand why WWF brought him back in and had him wrestle under Golga. Do you have any conversation about that you've heard, read anywhere?
I got fucking nothing.
Crazy.
It was terrible.
Kind of a legend that they put under a mask and had him with the
oddities, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing that came out of it is that he was holding Cartman.
And the theme song, too, was awesome.
Juggling. It was put over to ICP. I guess ICP got their due in wrestling.
Apparently, very nice guys as well, too. That's what I've heard on every podcast. And
what a faction, Kurgan.
Yeah,
Luna, fucking Luna. You know, it was great. I thought it was. I love the oddities. I always thought it was cool. I loved when I got my Kurgan Bone Crunch in action figure.
Oh hell yeah!
His hands were like this, so he had that like Hasbro-esque feel. It was cool. Fucking love the oddities, man.
All right, shot of nostalgia to the oddities.
I didn't know it was Olga that was Shark. That's crazy.
All right, Golga, cheers. John Tenta, Shark, Earthquake, Avalanche, whatever. All right, our opening match, not a great pace setter, but we do have a good match. The next one to kick off. It only meant 3 minutes and 24 seconds, but it was the Faces of Fear versus High Voltage. Faces of Fear get the win here. High Voltage, their debut here on Nitro. It's Chaos and Ruckus. So the crowd is super into the Faces of Fear. They seem like they're right on the verge of winning the tag titles. They seem like they should be getting a shot soon. So I would be surprised if they're not in line for a shot. Barbarian hits an awesome belly-to-belly superplex to set up the stereo-flying headbutts from the Faces of Fear. Chaos tries to help out, but Ming throws him out. Ming, certified badass. Faces of Fear, underrated tag team throughout the history of wrestling. I don't think they get their due because they're just a WCW team. Like, we don't really see them anywhere else. Yeah. I love Ming. I love Haku. I love any variation of him. They want tag team gold. We'll see if they get a shot soon. I would love to see them get a shot somewhere very soon because I think they deserve. They're a well-oiled machine at this point. 3 minutes and 24 seconds. The Kick of Fear wipes Ruckus out for the win. Great match.
Nope, nobody had a better token death grip. Somebody needs to bring that finish back. They really do. Like, did it not to be long, but did I ever tell you a story about Barbarian and my mom?
No, and I need to hear it.
Okay, so I'm working in independent wrestling, Chicago, 2000. 11-ish. We'll throw that out there. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but we're doing a show. Barbarian's daughter is valet for one of the wrestlers on the card. I'm sitting here doing timekeeping. My mom's there. She's the sponsor for the show. We're fucking all pumped. So we're at this awesome venue in Chicago called the Castle. Now it was the Excalibur back in the day, but 3 stories, look like Fight Club. You know, people are fucking in the balconies. They're watching wrestling. I'm all involved in the moment, sitting at the timekeeper's table, ringing the bell, all that shit. Show ends. I go downstairs. My mom's drinking with Barbarian, and I look, and I'm just like, oh fuck. And I walk up to him. It's like, sir, it's so pleasure to meet you. I like all the respect. You were such a badass. He's like, kid. He grabs me, pulls me by. He gives me a pat on the back of the head. I'm like knocked out. I had a concussion for 3 weeks. I was all fucked up. Barbarian certified badass. Bloodline. He was hanging out with my mom. Fucking ridiculous. I don't know how to explain it. Just a crazy wild moment in the Belcaster world.
What a cool moment to think back. And and you look at him, he's one of those guys throughout history that maybe doesn't get his due because he blends in with all those big guys, the Road Warrior style wrestlers. But
yeah,
I mean, he's like awesome. You want to talk about aesthetically toyetic guys that really make you look at the TV when he's on. Face of Fear did that for me. I'm more of a Ming guy, Haku guy, but Barbarian was, during his run, man, he fit that early 90s era of WWF. It was a lot of fun to see him, and see him here. I mean, it holds up in my opinion. There is a time and place for not the technical style of wrestling. Sometimes the big guys are punching the mouth. I don't think we have enough of those guys anymore.
No, we definitely do not. And much like Wu-Tang, the Faces of Fear are nothing to fuck with. And I will double down on that since I met them. Fuck that shit.
Well, we have Gene Okerlund interviewing Sting and Luger. The Steiners interrupt, and then things get a little bit heated, and Gene Okerlund flips out. Throws
Put that cigarette out.
He did everything but say unsafe working conditions. He just walked away. So we get some heated nature between Sting and Luger and the Steiners, which continues from the end of Nitro last week.
Love it.
We get another Hogan montage. We know he's still kind of lurking in the background, kind of keep you guys aware that he's around. Hogan's ego can't be too far out of sight for everybody else to see. Next match here, we have 1 minute and 50 seconds. Sergeant Craig Pittman gets the winner of Disco Inferno. As you would expect, Disco Inferno being booked like a jobber. He taps out to the, I think to the code red, they call it. He taps out before the hold even applied. Man, Disco Inferno is worse than I remember. Like, I remember bits and pieces of him hitting, I think his finisher was the stunner back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Not
garbage.
Great.
Hot garbage.
Yeah, and he's apparently an asshole on Twitter too. So,
he's a dickhead in real life too. The best thing about him was his entrance, and that is not saying much.
Yeah, he has an ongoing feud with Kenny Omega on social media, if I remember. That's the only thing I've known about him in recent days, where Kenny Omega just bodies him on social media, where he just quote tweets him and people just take it.
It's a Twitter squash match. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, he hangs on for a very long time. Disco Inferno hangs around WCW for a very long time.
I don't know how. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. And it's what a shitty gimmick in the 90s.
Not to mention Craig Pittman has Teddy Long at ringside as well. So Teddy Long, Teddy Long is a WWF WWE referee, SmackDown GM, go 1-to-1 with The Undertaker. Like, he won in a tag team match.
Yeah, you go 1-on-1 with The Undertaker on a triple threat match, brother.
So Teddy Long here, and people forget that, like, he's not just the referee. He's not just GM of SmackDown. He was a manager at one point.
He was. A great manager, too. Yeah.
Our next match here, we have Lord Steven Regal defeating Jim Duggan. So this match goes 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Regal rolls him up with a handful of tights for the win. We get all the Jim Duggan stuff going on, the 3-point stance, grabbing the 2x4. Dave Taylor takes it away from him. So Regal is continuing to talk shit to Sting on the build-up, hopefully to get that match at Great American Bash.
I'd pay for it.
So Jim Duggan trying to start USA chants. Whatever, you look over my shoulder, I got my 2x4 over the head. Jim Duggan signed that for me at the Sunvet Mall in like 2017.
Woo!
Hope all is well with Jim Duggan, but Steven Regal gets the win here, 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Gene Okerlund meets the Blue Bloods in the ring. Regal was fined for slapping Sting during a contract signing, but he paid double the fine, so he's owed a credit, he said. At the Great American Bash, he wants Sting at his best, so he wants him good and riled up. This was a really good segment to build up this match.
It was.
Sting is stuck in a whole bunch of different directions.
He's being pulled like Stretch Armstrong. Like there's no way to fucking fix it. He's left, right, down, up. He's in the tag title picture. He's in the world title picture. He's Sting. He's all over the place. But then he finds this cute little place here with William Regal. I'm here for.
Yeah, so he's like all over the place. He's building up the match with the Steiners. He's involved with Steven Regal, as you mentioned. So Sting pulling like double duties, like he's playing two different characters.
Yeah.
So Pillman Sullivan feud has turned into the Benoit Sullivan feud. So Benoit is telling Arn not to trust Sullivan in the Dungeon of Doom, but Sullivan takes exception to that. They've been showing some highlights of Saturday night, so there's some things going on that we are not seeing because we're not reviewing Saturday night. So Pillman obviously leaves. We continue the exact same feud with Benoit. So our next match here, Kevin Sullivan is in the ring. He's accompanied by Jimmy Hart. He defeats the debuting Prince Iaukea, the eventual television champion later on the next year.
Yeah.
This is his debut. What do you remember about him, I guess, throughout your time watching WCW?
Not much. He was over. I remember the name. I remember seeing him a lot, especially in '97. Very frequent, but this was you can't debut somebody with Kevin Sullivan in my timeline and make it impactful. This was like, it could have been better.
They keep debuting people and they lose. Like I feel like the tag team High Voltage, they do it all the time. Maybe that's not how they used to debut people with wins, but
it's weird.
Prince Iaukea as a character, he feels like he's a geek. I mean, he could just be enhancement talent, but we didn't have the benefit of the internet to learn about the indies or whatever was going on. But
yeah,
he loses in 1 minute and 22 seconds with a double stomp and a tree of woe. So that's it.
This will explain how bad Sullivan is. Who wins a fucking match in a tree of woe? Like it's such a shit fucking finish. Like, come on, man. You could have thought, couldn't think of anything better. Like you could have fucking DDT'd him and it would have been like, oh shit, this is the best. 5 stars. 5 stars. This was garbage, man. And the shortest match, I think, in our 2-hour Nitro reign, minute and 22 seconds. God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So next match, we have a much longer one. We have Ric Flair and Arn Anderson accompanied by Elizabeth and Woman defeating the Rock and Roll Express. And this is the first time we've seen Rock and Roll Express in 1996. In fact, this is the first time that we've seen Rock and Roll Express since the last time Survivor Series 1993. So Flair is wearing a Kevin Green jersey to hype up the match, while Arn is wearing a skin-tight Steve McMichael jersey. Arn Anderson, even then, was a thick boy. THICCBOI. Thick boy. He was having trouble fitting into that jersey. This match was a lot of fun. Rock and Roll Express still doing their thing. This is their farewell tour in 2022. Yeah. Ric Flair, ironically, on the same show, they're wrestling as well.
Dude, this was their farewell tour in 1996 too.
They all look very old here too, which is like,
yeah, we were talking about this before we started recording. I think they look younger now than they did in 1996.
Man,
this wild.
Was a really good match in my opinion. We're joking aside with how old some of these guys look. So Morton rolls past Arn and makes the hot tag to Gibson, double noggin knocker, drop kick to Flair, double drop kick to Arn, while the ref is with Morton and Elizabeth. Woman claws Gibson in the eyes during doing the O'Connor roll on Flair. With Gibson blinded, Ard hits him with the DDT, covered by Flair for the win. 16 minutes and 1 second. So this, to me, was a pretty good match as far as TV goes. I'm a big fan of what they did here. To be honest with you, I really enjoyed seeing the Rock and Roll Express on my TV. I'm a big fan of them.
You could not have put Rock and Roll Express with two better people in WCW at the time. I think this was such a masterpiece. Probably the most underrated match in 1996. One of them, at least. This was phenomenal. And Rock and Roll Express, I've worked with them. Great fucking guys. They're on their farewell tour right now. They're killing it. And they've been killing it for years and years and years. The only thing that was missing from this match was Corny. in their corner. I think they would have
Yeah.
been great. Rock and Roll Express is fucking awesome, man. Like, fuck you, Freak Flair and Arn Anderson. But this was great. This is definitely one of the highlights of this whole week.
Yeah, I agree, man. And we'll talk about that when we get to the chaser. But Gene Okerlund meets with Ric Flair and the entourage after. So Arn continues to build up the match against Kevin Green and Steve McMichael. They're really putting a lot of build into this match at Great American Bash. So he talks about, just in general, Heenan is saying he wants to manage Arn and Flair. Since he made a promise to himself many years ago he was done managing, he declines the offer, but is thinking about it. I think it was a cool segment. The whole match, the after the effect, I loved it. And it sucks to see the Rock and Roll Express make like a kind of a pit stop here. Yeah. I'm hoping we see them a little bit more down the line because, you know, they were a lot of fun to see here. It was weird because I didn't place them in 1996 WCW. I don't know where I placed them, but they didn't fit in this landscape to me.
I was not expecting to see them when I threw it on. That was for sure. But it was awesome. Super here for it.
And they'll be in WWF in 1998 too, which is also ridiculously weird when you see. Yeah, they try to do that NWA invasion thing with Jim Cornette, which is like it completely falls flat. So stay tuned for that. We get more Hogan clips, and then we lead into the World Heavyweight Championship match with the Giant defeating Ice Train in 30 seconds. Doesn't last long at all. Hits the choke slam. Scott Norton comes down to help his tag partner, and then takes 2 choke slams for his cause. So this match wasn't really even a match. I'm tempted to just take a shot for it because it was so quick. That's not the rule.
We can if you want to, but I'm not encouraging it.
Now we do have one more match to take a shot, and that's coming up soon. But Gene Okerlund gets a word with the Giant. Giant asks Gene the question why WCW keeps showing clips of Hogan as the world champion. He doesn't want to see any more Hogan. He's taking out Flair, Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger next. They're continuing to make Giant look like a legitimate badass. I'm here for it. I think he's great, and he's been a highlight of 1996 so far. Huge
stride for a younger talent too. To demand that I don't want to see Hogan. I already took out all these guys. This is what I'm doing. Awesome build for the Giant.
The next match here isn't so awesome. Scott Norton defeats Hugh Morris in 1 minute and 51 seconds. Norton stands up during the No Laughing Matter and drops Morris. He punches Morris a few times in the mat and holds him down for the 3. Hugh Morris treated like a jobber. We see ebbs and flows of Hugh Morris being involved in some meaningful things throughout his run here, but Bill DeMott largely is enhancement talent in WCW, and that's what he was used for here.
Yeah, it was weird. It was it felt like that Norton was going to be the jobber, and they kind of reverse jobbered the situation. Good shit, though. I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was good for building the storyline. You know, Scott Norton comes out, gets choke slammed a few times, boom, 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 boom. Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next segment, we have Mongo and Kevin Green training at the WCW power plant. They're going over game plans. They come to the realization they should call Randy Savage, and they do. And they say that Randy Savage agreed to coach them at Great American Bash. Dig it.
Yeah.
So,
dig it.
That's going to be cool. We're going to see Randy Savage. He is suspended from in-ring action, so it's confusing why he's going to be allowed to be involved in this match with Ric Flair.
A title match. I can't perform on TV. I can't perform in a pay-per-view, brother. Yeah, but I'm coaching these 2 jabronis.
All right, so our next and main event is the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Sting and Lex Luger versus Rick and Scott Steiner goes to a no contest. Bischoff finds out the news about Savage. He laughs about it. They get a phone call from Savage during the main event, which totally devalues the whole thing. Savage says he can't wrestle, but there's nobody telling him he can't coach. Match is really good. The announcers are not involved in what's going on here. The crowd actually is going nuts as they're watching the match. So much so that the match ends at 6 minutes 42 seconds when it goes to commercial, but then it continues. And then Luger sticks and runs on the Giant until Sting and Steiner forget their problems and join in on the Giant beatdown. Crowd's going nuts as they whip Luger into the Giant and knock the big guy over the top rope with the loaded forearm. They're still selling that Luger has the metal in his forearm. They're acting like they're going off the air, but no, it's not ending. Here comes the unnamed interruption over to the announce table. Heenan gets out of there. Scott Hall begins to taunt Bischoff about starting a war. Hall keeps saying the war that we are going to finish. Bischoff doesn't know exactly what we were talking about. Continues to talk about we are going to be doing all this takeover. So clearly we know it's Kevin Nash. You know, Sting comes out to the announce table to defend WCW's right and honor to confront Hall about what he came out here and said last week. Sting says Hall keeps talking about wanting 3 of the best WCW has to offer when he's all alone. Sting then challenges Hall to a match right now. Bischoff keeps mouthing to the camera that it's not going to happen. Hall says nobody tells him what to do and when to do it. Sting slaps the crap out of Hall until security and police separate the two. Match goes off air.
Very good.
The event goes off air with chaos ensuing. This was awesome. And
Nitro going off the air with chaos? You're fucking kidding me.
And he also says he has a big surprise for the next week. So we're going to see the debut.
He said, I got a little surprise. Well, a big surprise for next week.
Awesome.
It was great. Like I said, couldn't have a better fucking dude doing this. That confrontation with him and Sting face to face, fucking beautiful, man. And I at the time I was really hoping that we were going to get Hall versus Sting 1-on-1 in this little spot. I almost wish it didn't grow more than it was, because that would have been awesome, man.
And it's funny to think that they probably thought Sting was going to be the guy to be the third man at the time, right? So they're
how
building
crazy
it up
would that be, right? You're looking at this in retrospective. I would have fucking popped even harder for Sting than Hogan, I think.
Yeah, and then we'll definitely talk about that with Bash to the Beach and talk about everyone involved. But we do need to take a shot of nostalgia for the no contest.
An awesome no contest, though. One of the better matches of the week. I thought it was great. Rick and Steiner, fucking Sting, Lex Luger, and hey yo.
All right, so that brings us to the end, and we're going to go to our chaser to talk about our favorite week of the 2 episodes of Nitro. All right, so every week we will pick our favorite parts of the 2 nights of Nitro, and I have a feeling we have the exact same pick. Belcaster, I'll let you start. Tell me what your favorite part is, and if you want to elaborate more on what we talked about before, feel free to.
Whew, still recovering. Hold on. You know what? It was definitely a tie between Rock and Roll Express, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair. So great, man. But also Sting and Scott Steiner. That's I mean, how can you not pick that one too? It was such a good match. Yeah, I don't think you could get better wrestling in 1996 than that, man. Really hard-hitting shit.
I agree with you 100%. And then obviously our number one moment has to be Scott Hall debuting, but as far as in-ring work goes, those 2 matches really put the tag team championships feeling like they're very important.
Yeah.
I loved it. Scott Hall's debut still holds exactly the same importance that I felt when you watch the clips, and I don't think it's exaggerated.
More. No, I really think more so. Like you're looking at the pyramids being built in pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Like you're looking at some really deep shit in pro wrestling, and it's awesome to rewatch it and feel it again. Like looking at it, like the whole house stands still here, and you just got Scott Hall coming in. Hey yo, you don't know who I am, but you know why I'm here. Where's Billionaire Ted? Like it fucking clicks so well. It was beautifully done, man. I don't think you could have done it better now or ever. God damn it, Bill.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with you, and we talked about it to death at this point, and we will continue to talk about it.
Yeah.
The moment was huge, and I think the in-ring work aside, like a lot of it gets forgotten because of the big moments that happen, and the Attitude Era is the same way. We talk about Stone Cold with the beer truck, and you talk about throwing the Intercontinental title in the Detroit River, and all those moments live in your head. But what's inside and interwoven into all these moments are the great wrestling that we're seeing, and some legends wrestling each other, whether it be Sting and Luger versus the Steiners, Rock and Roll Express versus the Four Horsemen, the Giant on this revolutionary run as a really young green talent that's really honing his craft. There's a lot going on, a lot to be happy about. And, even the legends too that are behind the desk. You got Bobby Heenan, Larry Zbyszko, Gene Okerlund's doing the interviews. Like it's a who's who in wrestling on top of mid-card wise with Steven Regal. I'm having a blast, dude. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, we got the best of every world here really, like anybody that was established at this time makes their presence felt on Nitro. From Ric Flair to Larry Zbyszko to Bobby Heenan to beautiful young Tony Schiavone. It really, really, really sets in what we grew into for fandom. I think that we expect more because of what we're seeing here. I think that our standards are so held high because of the Scott Hall debut, the third man, everything that's going on right now here in 1996. Daddy, even Dusty Rhodes coming out on the pay-per-view, telling what Flamery would be. You know, you get two tag teams fighting against two tag teams, but with different opponents. It's crazy. It's pandemonium.
On that note, let's close the tab. Let's talk about what next week's in, and let's get out of here and start our weekend.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the end. The bar lights are turning on. We're closing our tab. We're signing it out. We got to go. But just so you guys know, for the final wrap-up, next week's show will be July 15th, and we'll be talking about the June 10th, 1996 Nitro and WCW Great American Bash 1996. If you'd like to find our schedule and follow along through all the big episodes, go to our Instagram page at ACEFIELD Retro, at Turnbuckle Tavern. The schedule is there. Or you can also go to the turnbuckletavern.com and visit us on all these different platforms. You want to buy a shirt? Pro Wrestling Tees got you. Teespring's got you. Check us out not only on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere. We have shows for pretty much anything you want. Talking about current product. Back in the day, you want some indie coverage, you want some GCW coverage, we got you covered. Like I said with the shirts, ProWrestlingTees.com/tavern. Go to the Shot Nostalgia shop, buy some merch, support the tavern. It goes a very long way. Support us by just reviewing us, or go to Teespring and buying a shirt there. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of stuff we're offering you guys, free content. So all that stuff goes a really long way. Mike Belcaster, you got less than a minute or so. Get your shit in, my friend, and tell me what's going on your end.
Goddamn, kid. All the lights are on here. It's brighter than a goddamn future of Stone Cold Steve Austin. We're trying to figure shit out. But we got Jeremy Padower, the one and only Fig God, coming on the Fig Night this Tuesday, July 12th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Make sure you join in on that. Today's sessions is all about Ric Flair, baby. Woo! We're talking about his last match. We're talking about his best shit ever. God, it's so bright I can't see. But I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. This has been a blast. Hey, yo. Good to be talking about the bad guy and honoring his goddamn legacy, because everybody here has to do it. And that's all I got to say. That is it. It's been
We gotta go. We're out of time.
We gotta go.